Global News Update, February 27, 2026. Good morning. It is Friday, February 27, 2026. This is your deep dive daily briefing. I am your anchor, delivering a comprehensive analysis of the pivotal events that have defined the last 24 hours across the globe. We begin our broadcast on the world stage, where the strategic landscape of international diplomacy is navigating a period of profound uncertainty and high-stakes negotiation. In Geneva, United States-mediated talks between Russian and Ukrainian negotiators have reportedly entered a critical phase. Diplomatic sources indicate that the two sides have narrowed their differences to two core issues, with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff suggesting that a historic in-person meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin could occur within the next 3 weeks. This push for a diplomatic breakthrough comes as the conflict enters its fourth year, marked by recent Ukrainian-Canadian commemorations and continued volatility on the front lines. Simultaneously, in Southeast Asia, Thailand is preparing for a landmark general election this Sunday. The Election Commission has affirmed its full readiness for nationwide voting, as the rival Bum Jay Thai and People's Parties vie for leadership in a race that will define the nation's political trajectory for years to come.
Transitioning from the world of diplomacy to the broader global economy, the narrative is being driven by a dramatic recalibration of trade policy following a monumental legal decision in Washington. The United States Supreme Court recently struck down the administration's use of emergency powers to impose broad international tariffs, a ruling that initially forced the U.S. Customs and Border Protection to halt duty collections earlier this week. However, the relief for global markets was short-lived. In a swift response, the White House has moved to implement a new blanket 10% tariff under Section 122 of the 1974 Trade Act, which allows for temporary import surcharges to address international payments problems. This fresh wave of protectionism has prompted a significant split in corporate behavior, as many shippers repeat front-loading activities to avoid potential cost hikes, while others pause in search of regulatory clarity. Despite these headwinds, the global economy remains on a firmer footing than many anticipated a year ago, with consumption and investment, particularly in the United States, proving resilient amid the institutional shifts.
In the realm of finance, all eyes are on the legislative and corporate moves that are reshaping the long-term wealth of the next generation. In Washington, D.C., Representative Young Kim has introduced the SEEDS Act of 2026, a transformative piece of legislation designed to make President Trump's Trump accounts permanent. This act aims to ensure that every American child receives a $1,000 investment in the stock market at birth, providing a financial stake in the national economy that compounds until they reach adulthood. In the private sector, major transportation leader CSX Corporation has announced an 8% increase in its quarterly dividend, reflecting confidence in the industrial and consumer markets it serves. Meanwhile, the commodities sector is facing a complex environment, as producer-side inflation metrics and winter storms in the United States tighten freight capacity and drive up costs for paper and agricultural products. Investors are increasingly utilizing artificial intelligence to navigate these pricing pressures, seeking to identify the next leaders in a market where technology is becoming the primary driver of alpha.
Turning our attention to the technology sector, the focus has shifted toward the intersection of national security and industrial innovation. The global semiconductor industry continues to be defined by an intense race for high-bandwidth memory, with South Korean giants reporting record-breaking demand that has effectively sold out production capacity for the foreseeable future. This supercycle is being fueled by a projected $2.5 trillion in artificial intelligence spending for 2026, a scale that is fundamentally restructuring the global high-tech supply chain. Simultaneously, the challenge of cybersecurity has reached a new level of urgency. As nations like Thailand deploy international standard security to protect election transparency, the global community is grappling with the rapid pace of AI-enabled interference. This has prompted a wave of new investments in defensive automation, as both government and private entities realize that the ability to secure digital infrastructure has become as critical to sovereign defense as traditional military readiness.
Finally, we look at the logistics and supply chain networks that serve as the vital arteries of global commerce. The industry is currently managing the combined impact of the new global tariffs and severe seasonal disruptions. Severe winter storms have tightened freight capacity across several U.S. states, causing regional delays and increasing transportation costs. The U.S. Postal Service has reported a staggering $1.3 billion first-quarter loss, a 30% increase over planned deficits, as it struggles with rising operating expenses and shifting mail volumes. In response to these challenges, logistics providers are accelerating the adoption of AI-driven inventory management and autonomous delivery systems to boost accuracy and throughput. As the industry prepares for the massive resumption of trade following the Lunar New Year lull, the focus remains on building resilience through regionalized warehouse networks and real-time data visibility, ensuring that the supply chain can withstand both the unpredictability of the weather and the volatility of international trade policy. That concludes our global briefing for today. Thank you for joining us.